All right, it's in between. So here we go. I've tossed out to the guys that one of the moments truly in between, we were talking about movie theaters and when do you go back? And it started with Sean.
Yeah, my birthday, July 9th. Send all presents to me. Thank you very much. But that's when Black Widow comes out.
On that
day,
okay.
on July 9th.
Or are you a Friday this year?
Yeah, I guess I am. Or maybe I don't know. Is that a Friday this year?
Not that it matters, but I'm just curious.
Yeah, it is a Friday this year. Yeah. And so, I'm at that point where I'm close to being okay with theaters, but I don't think there are enough people vaccinated that are responsible enough and honest enough to be in a theater. And so I'm at the point where, maybe at the end of the year I'll be comfortable going to the theater, but right now I for certain movies I'm not doing Cruella or something like that, but with the Marvel movies I'm probably going to end up buying them and watching them on Disney Plus at home and having you guys over or something.
I mean, I speaking of movies, I told my husband yesterday, I said, tomorrow on our afternoon off, I really just kind of want to go to Alamo Draft House and have a couple drinks and watch a movie, but I'm not ready yet.
Yeah,
I'm not ready. And I mean, part of it is because I don't know where we are in terms of vaccination. That for us right now, our listening audience is probably, several months ahead of where we are.
Oh yeah.
We're only about a month into the, hey, unmasked, vaccinated, unmasked people can hang out.
Well, hey, it's May 30th right now. So, and like 50% of the U.S. I think is fully vaccinated.
That's a pretty high number.
Yeah.
It's a pretty high number.
But we need it to be higher.
But it needs to be higher, yeah.
But we need it at like 80%, yeah.
I would love to actually see the breakdown about whether this is in rural areas or cities, where the cities versus the rural areas are, because my prejudice suspect is that
cities are good
and rural areas not quite as vaccinated because of the stigma against vaccination.
Well, we've taken the time to go out to a few restaurants, and especially when Shelley and I Shelley and I are from north of here. When you truly talk about being next to Oklahoma, that's where we grew up. And when we walk into those places, I won't name the establishment, I won't name the cities, but we walk in and my immediate thought is, oh shit.
Got to eat outside and nothing else.
Because I almost can guarantee you, because and Abby's the one that notices it right away. Abby's a very woke young lady, and she's like, we will be responsible. Dad, wear your mask. And not that I don't, but that's important. We walk in and we are literally the only people, including staff, that's wearing masks. And so I think you're probably right. When you get away from these larger urban areas,
more blue areas, to be honest,
let's be very fair. I think probably, okay, if you guys want to use my next to Oklahoma where I truly live, if you maybe go about 10-15 miles north where I live, I think that's where it stops with vaccinations being prevalent.
We're talking to my parents are thinking about going to visit my grandmother, my mom's mom, because they're both not doing great. And my aunt, who is now taking care of my grandmother, hasn't gotten vaccinated. Her husband, my cousin, all in a very small town outside of Tulsa in Oklahoma. So that's part of why my prejudice to this idea that it's going to be in these rural areas that aren't vaccinated, and they're because of politics.
Yeah. Well,
because they've heard stories, because they've probably read something, I don't know, on Newsmax or something like that. They've talked to a nurse. That kind of tale.
They've done $6.3 billion worth of Google searches on Facebook to figure out memes that tell them all the science.
When I think about my store, we're still wearing masks. I think I mentioned this last week.
Do you require it of customers?
We do require it of customers. Okay. We require it of customers because I need vaccination rates to be higher. And for the same reason I'm going to the theater, I need to know that this vaccinated people without masks in enclosed areas
are responsible.
We have a few more months of data on that. I would like a few more months of data. I'm not questioning the CDC, but for my peace of mind, I would like to know, okay, is this society, is it working? The vaccination to the level that we want it to.
Obviously, I'm going to be bashing religion in this, but science, it said, you are okay. I really like people who change their minds when they're presented with new information that challenges their beliefs and say, oh, I didn't realize that. I need to examine what I thought because CDC says this. Well, we're not wearing masks now. Why did we have to wear masks 6 months ago? Because the disease was more prevalent. Right. So the situation has changed. I changed my opinion based on new information. Instead of saying, well, I don't understand why this happened. God must have done it. if my answer is I don't know, that means God did it. That's not an answer. You have to be able to say, I don't know. Let's figure out why. Or there might be things that we never have an answer for, but the answer is not then, well, if God did it.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of people take experiences that, hey, I went through this experience and it didn't happen to me, therefore it doesn't exist. I didn't get
COVID, so COVID's not real.
But I mean, we look at we've now reduced daily infection rates to what they were March of last year.
Yeah.
And we went through all of that March of last year when the rates were where they are now.
Yeah.
Which means that period of time where it was not higher, we were trying to come back out of the lockdown and things were opening back up when we were still, infection rates were really, really high. Mm-hmm. We have the benefit today that we have vaccines.
Yeah.
Right. It wasn't the everybody gets it herd immunity. That didn't spare us.
Right.
Right. It is the fact that we now have these vaccines.
And yeah, back then we thought touching surfaces could give it to you. And now we know it's not spread that way. So I'm allowed to change my opinion of I don't have to wash everything that comes into the house.
Wipe down the vegetables.
Yeah. I heard people throwing a fit about this is the whole thing. It's a constant evolution of them trying to control you. And I'm like, hang on.
Science is constantly evolving.
Yes, knowledge grows if you let it. And you start from a point of caution and you say, we think it might be this, but we don't have enough data to say truthfully. But isn't it more prudent to be cautious and say that's what it is? And then when you realize,
especially with your health,
I mean, every epidemic that's gone along, I think think of the misinformation when AIDS first came and hit, and how first they simply called it gay cancer, and they did all these things, but then they began to realize it could be spread everywhere, and they understood how it was spread.
I remember being a kid thinking that if somebody had AIDS and if I was touching them or if they bled and I was near them somehow and the blood got on me, I could get AIDS.
Well, I'm never going to sell my mom out, but I had a family member that was HIV positive, and my mom, who's even a retired nurse, had a little bit of misinformation about you need to be cautious when you're around him. But it was because it's what she had at the time.
Right.
Yeah.
And then as we went along, it was like, now I understand how this works. Why can't we see that this correlates to that? Mm-hmm. That it is the exact same thing. We started from a point of severe caution, and now we begin to open it up. I want to go back to movie theaters too. Shelley and I just had this conversation yesterday. She wants to see Cruella because she loves the Dalmatians. And I said to her, I'm not trying to be a dick, but I'm not sure I'm ready to go back.
Right.
And I said, by the way, I think we get that on Disney for free. And that's kind of what I said to you guys, because being a musical fan, In the Heights is coming out, and I want to support the things that I like so they'll make more of them. But is it worth it?
Well, I think there was a study just last week. Was it Spain or France that did one of those, like all vaccinated people in an arena, and they did fine. Nobody transmitted.
Oh, really?
Nobody ended up with COVID after that particular experience. Yeah, I have to go find the article. But we're discovering. We're discovering more things. Does it mean that we shouldn't have gone through lockdown, or we shouldn't have? No, it means we're learning and discovering and moving forward with it.
Right.
Are we concerned about mutations and variations of the virus? Right. Will we need to get booster shots? These are things right now in May, we don't know what that next step or process is, but we have to be open to whatever science tells us. And we have to be ready to kind of ebb and flow and change as we need over the next coming months.
I mean,
who knows? We may not even be worried about this in a year.
Yeah,
maybe not.
Or it might just be something like the flu, where you get a COVID shot every year to make sure you don't get the COVID.
Okay.
Right. Yeah. Well, we're learning.
Yeah.
So what bothers me when it gets into people doing Google searches, I was talking to a friend about this last night, because we have friends that one of them told me when the vaccines first came out, it changes your DNA. And so my immediate thought was...
With the microchips in it?
Well, this is my first thing. And anytime somebody tells me that, I'm like, okay, I'm going to do my own Google search, but I have a rule when I do it. I will only go off of information off of reputable sites, such as government sites. And you can all sit there and say the government's lying to you. There's at least data behind their information. Right. And I will not go on some crackpot sites. So to these friends that say these kind of things, I'm like, okay, so you found somebody on Google. Let me explain to you how Google algorithms work. The moment I put in Does it change your DNA? Set something with an algorithm that I've looked for that, and then it can compound and lead you down paths.
That says,
it'll eventually, that's how it works. It's relevancy to what you've searched and the information you want. So I can go find any crackpot in the world that tells me, yes, it changes. Yes. But by the way, I'm going to say they can find that. I can also go get data that shows how many millions of people have died from this. And my millions, I'm sorry, outweigh your one ding dong. It just, that's how this works. Here's a shit ton of data and here's your one dipshit. No.
Yeah. I mean, the whole world is saying one thing, but this one guy is the one beacon of truth. Don't cover his light up under a bushel.
I think of all these really kind of just bad comparisons, but it really is when you have one exception to thousands or hundreds or millions of things, it's not worth the risk,
right,
to not be one of the 100 versus being the one that's over here on this side.
People are so wanting, and I've thought, Jesus, do I want to blame the Matrix for this, with that whole damn pill? Are you willing to do this and hear the truth? But I think people want so badly to be the one. I understand something the way you don't, and it's almost like that badge that they put upon their chest that I'm the one that's speaking, and you'll come around to me. It's like, what the fuck?
We had the risk. We had the risk of the blood clots with the Johnson & Johnson shot briefly, and I want to say the study number was only like 6 people. It wasn't a very, very large number.
And out of how many they
based upon the number of vaccinations. So what do? We shut it down for a little bit
and studied it.
We took some time to study it, and we've come back and say, no, this is an acceptable risk for what we're getting out of the reward for this kind of thing. And now we can work on how do we prevent that 6th of blood clots. How can we stop that from happening?
That's how science works.
Who is the risk factor for that? Can we give them a different shot? Can we do a different way?
But I've also heard that the risk of getting blood clots is greater for women using birth control than getting this shot. So why are we not trying to fix birth control for women?
Well, yeah, you can find all the random examples of
I don't want to get a shot because I might get a blood clot. Excuse me, I don't want to get pregnant, but I might get a blood clot.
Well, we're just always going to have the people that are going to rail against seatbelts or any type of regulation or vaccinations or whatever. They're just always going to be the people that want to throw doubt.
I mean, can you imagine that? We've had hundreds of lawsuits against the election. We've had all these recounts.
To the election now.
Recounts and everything. But the MyPillow guy is the one guy that has all the facts. He's the one guy.
I think I'd read recently that half of all registered public voters still believe that Trump won the election, and I'm like,
he's actually president right now.
It's 30%.
Oh, 30%, and actually president. But I mean,
still 30 is a lot. So to the MyPillow guy, that brings up a conversation that I do find very interesting. And you owning a store, I think this probably will touch upon something that you can back up. That when Bed Bath & Beyond pulled his product out of their store, a lot of people came in and said, you need to sue them. They have no right to not sell your product. And
I thought, private business.
Hang on. Yeah, they do. Their job is they send buyers out. And my wife used to do a lot of this, that their job is to go and find the things, present them, people choose it, and they do it. There is no, if the case were that you could just put whatever you want, I could literally go make something, put it on the shelves and say, sell my product. That's not how free market works.
Bed Bath & Beyond wants to make money.
Yeah,
they want to sell pillows that make them money. Mm-hmm. And if you as a corporation are so toxic that people do not want to buy your pillow,
you're taking
then
up space.
Bed Bath & Beyond should not sell your pillow. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's as simple as that. If it's not selling, get it out of there. So if you're worried about the political toxicity of a product, and being able to sell that product, hey, don't take that risk. It's not worth the risk.
So in your store, if you have, let's start with the simplistic nature of it. You've ordered a comic book and it's not selling. Do you leave it on the shelves forever and ever and ever and ever and ever and ever and ever until it sells, or do you pull it and perhaps put it somewhere else?
Well, so this is actually interesting. There's a publisher that I'm not going to mention the name that launched maybe like 2 or 3 years ago, and they had the first book they had out was a little hot. Little speculators were kind of into it, so I stalked the book, and they expanded their catalog to have about 4 or 5 different titles. Over the course of that next year and a half, I would not sell a single copy of any of their books, even their new ones. Not a single copy. Wasn't a lot of titles, wasn't a lot of books, like 5. Mm-hmm. So now I have to go in my head to weigh whether I am a store that needs to carry one of everything, potentially just to have that one buyer,
right?
or whether it's better for me not to spend the money on one book to sit on one shelf when I could use that real estate for valuable comic books. Now, it's something that a lot of customers complain about when they go into stores that just stock Marvel and DC. They don't see independent work. They want to see more. There is